With Dave Wilson, the state champion coach from Catholic Central, who finally scaled the mountain last year to look over the other side for the first time after a lot of ascent attempts that were somewhat unsuccessful. But before I ask any other question, the one that I've been wanting to ask since we started this thing,
Sure.
you finally know the horn goes off last year, and you know that you've now stopped the streak. What was the first thought? What was the first thought inside your head?
Thank God.
It had to be an incredible moment of adulation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, personally, not.
I almost didn't know how to act, to tell you the truth. So, yeah, it's just been it's been a lot of work, and it felt really good, and I almost haven't known how to treat it at times. You know, I enjoyed myself, and I'm like, okay, let's move on. You know, I'm not gonna sit in this too long and let it taint me. So, and then people are like, well, make sure you enjoy yourself. And I'm like, well, I did enjoy myself. So it's, you know, I'm ready to. I've been ready to
move on.
Go forward. Yeah.
So in that transition, I guess will be my last question about that monkey on your back sort of approach. Was there some point after that just kind of private point was it just kind of hit you that was like, wow, this is really special?
Yeah. I can't remember the date, but we go up to Mackinac Island every year with the family, and for like almost a week. And my wife and I were, and there's a whole slew of us. So we had a few moments to ourselves. We were up at Mission Point, just sitting there. She fell asleep, and I was just looking out at the water, and just things started going through my mind, and I was just like, oh my God.
Just there was.
This is really, and it's not just so much for me as well, but it's like for the school.
Right.
You know, that was the first one for the school, so I think, yeah, it's a few weeks after the season that just kind of hit pretty hard.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I always start these interviews at the beginning. I wanted to ask that question because I've been
Yeah,
thinking
sure.
about it for 24 hours,
Yeah.
how I wanted to approach it. And you know,
You and everyone else.
right,
probably.
I'm sure. Get it out of the way. I mean, you obviously were a Catholic Central student.
Yes.
Went to school here.
Yes.
In the old days when it was Redford,
Yes.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Went to Aquinas. Did you play lacrosse in high school?
I did, yeah.
Okay.
It was a horrible experience from top to bottom. Maybe not that bad, but I started at Sorrows with Dave Murray, who's one of our members,
Right.
and I was okay. You know, we were inside, you know, throwing balls inside of a huge plastic garbage can. And that's where I learned. But my folks were pretty. So I had some bad knees. I used to run track, and they're like, yeah, you know, what is that? And I was like, it's lacrosse. And I mean, they were born in the late 20s. They didn't no
Right.
idea what that was, and I didn't know what it was either.
When did you first pick up a stick? High school or middle school? Well,
It was
Sorrows
probably
had middle
12.
school.
Yeah, it's around 12 or 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorrows produced a lot of players.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I had several of them play for me. Ian Brahms, like some really good players.
Yeah.
At Sorrows that went to St. Mary's when I was
Oh
there.
yeah.
So some really good players there.
Yep.
Good coaching.
Yeah.
Kids knew how to play.
Yep. Well, that's at this point, everyone was just starting out. So, but yeah, a lot of really good guys.
So in terms of time frame, we're talking 1980s.
Well, yeah, they had to be 82 or 83, somewhere around there, and but I wasn't allowed to play on the team. I wasn't allowed to play football either. But I was, my parents wouldn't let me, and then I ran track. Which was fine because I was pretty fast, so I had a couple of sprinting records. So I was okay with that. But then after a while, I really wanted to play. So my freshman year at Catholic Central, my parents let me play football, and so that was good. And then I was practiced for lacrosse and whatnot, and then I had my appendix out basically the week of tryouts. So I missed my freshman year. I was in the hospital for a few days.
Then you played, obviously, sophomore
Yeah,
through
and then
senior year.
yeah.
Who's coaching?
My sophomore year on JV with all the rest of the guys, it was Pete Gilbert.
Okay.
I believe Dave Phillips was the head coach, was the varsity coach at the time. Yeah.
Pretty successful guy.
Yeah, I always remember him being around, but I don't, and I know what he looks like, and, he sent me a few messages recently, but, I didn't have that much interaction with him.
For those,
My coach was John Van Antwerp.
okay.
Yeah.
And you guys played across the street from the school on what essentially is that old grass field, right?
Sometimes, yes. When I was on JV, we had to cross the street, and then it was pretty bad.
The old, I guess what I'm trying to point is the old physical plant, sports plant at Catholic Central was a tough place to play because it was a.
Oh yeah, there's a picture over of it on the wall there. It's the kids here, so, oh yeah, what was it like in your day? I said, I'll tell you what it was like.
Played the gravel pit.
Monday, when we started practice, coming off the weekend, we'd have to go around and pick up the field a little bit for broken bottles because it was in a neighborhood. So kids went out there and drank and smashed bottles, and you'd pick pieces of things out of your legs after getting thrown on the ground, and there was concrete in the ground, and across the street there was some bed spring. You had people fall down, and it was like a
Right.
bed spring sticking out of the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
So from high school,
Made us tough though.
made you tough. High school career, you obviously got a good grounding in the process
Yeah.
of the sport.
Yeah.
Moved on to Aquinas, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Always wanted to be a teacher?
I did, and then I changed my mind several times, and then I just circled back to it over a long period of time. But originally, that is what I went to school for.
Did you play lacrosse, club lacrosse at Aquinas?
I did. I played for Grand Rapids Lacrosse Club.
Okay. So that was a lot of former Michigan State guys when the team finally disbanded, right? Wasn't, if I'm not mistaken? Maybe not.
A different time frame.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a bit earlier than that. Had a chance, was one of many guys who went up to Michigan State for, a visit, and, kind of screwed myself out of an opportunity, to go to Michigan State, which, at the time I was like, boy, this is really dumb. This is probably a better decision for me. It's just too massive.
How does
I needed a smaller school.
How does a Catholic boy end up at Aquinas?
It's
On
a
the other
Catholic
side.
school.
No, I understand that. Other side of the state, because there's
Yeah.
UD, it was just one of those things that happened, right? You wanted to continue the spirituality, the education, all that stuff, right?
I didn't know. I was just, there was so many things I didn't know at that age. I was a little lost. I had probably some family issues that, I wasn't helping myself enough. And I think I just drifted a little bit. But one of my good friends that I grew up with, Christine Strand, she's a year older. She went to Aquinas, and I went up to visit her to see how she liked it. And it was small. It was homey.
Great campus.
Really is. I guess it's even bigger now. And then one of my colleagues, she went there. We're a few years apart, but just a nice atmosphere. And it was a good experience.
Good. The Grand Rapids club team, which was basically, give us an idea. Was a club team that played other clubs?
Yeah.
You played some colleges.
Yeah, I think whatever was around. The one that sticks out in my mind was Calvin, and we played over there a little bit. That's just down the road. But I mean, it's not club like it is now.
Right.
So I mean, we had, I think his name is Mike Carroll, and I think he's still around. But he was, he kind of led the charge, and then there was somebody else, John. I don't remember, but those guys were older, and I was a freshman in college. I didn't know, and there was nothing through the school. Some of these guys were men; they had jobs.
Right.
They
Adults.
like practices at 6 after I get off of work. And,
Right.
Yeah, adults with real responsibility. So it was hodgepodge.
Could they play?
Yeah, some of the guys were really good. Yeah, and But I mean, it was just, you know, you'd be like, "Can I borrow your stick?" And you'd
Right.
be like, "I don't know, I only have one," you know. So we'd be sharing stuff, and it was just you'd stick, you know, 6 guys in this little,
Right.
you know, Dodge Omni and try to cruise around.
So when you get out of Aquinas now, you have, I'm assuming, a teaching degree?
I didn't finish there.
Okay.
I changed my mind so many times. You know, I really wanted to go in the FBI. I did that. And I eventually,
What got you the
yeah,
FBI?
I like law enforcement. Well, I started
Okay.
taking some courses, and it's a lot of social work.
Okay.
And I started going through that, and I was like, oh, I didn't realize this, and I didn't particularly like that. And then I eventually ended up closer to home at Madonna University in Livonia, and it just became a little more grounded. And then I ended up with my bachelor's degree in English, which I did nothing with. I just went out into the business world and just tried to start a career.
Well, from the career, from Aquinas and maybe some time after that,
Yeah.
you've been teaching about 12 years here at
Yeah.
Catholic
Oh, yeah.
Central.
Yes. Yeah.
When did you start coaching? When did you start coaching? You must have started coaching before you came here.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, geez. 1994, something like that. With my good friend Stan Zidell, he hooked up with Dave White, and at Bloomfield. So Stan had the JV job, and then Dave needed help. So I just kind of bounced around a little bit, but like most people, you try to gravitate towards the varsity experience.
Lasser or Andover? You say Bloomfield.
It was a combined team.
Okay, so unified.
We were at 90% of our activities were at Lasser High School.
Okay.
Yeah, occasionally we played it at Andover.
So what years was that?
It's like 94 and 95.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got the bug, or just something you wanted to continue? I mean, you were away from lacrosse for a little while. I'm just curious.
Yeah. Well, like I said, my friend Stan brought me into it, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. You know, I really like this, and we started spending more time doing it. Went out to the U.S. Lacrosse Convention. Then Stan got hired as the head coach at Novi, and then he said, "Do you want to go with me? It's a bit closer to home. It's a little bit more the other direction." I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so we did that for 8 years.
Point out that you're a Farmington kid.
Yeah.
Grew up in Farmington, even though you're a Catholic Central student.
Yeah.
So that obviously that is this side of town, to
Yes.
say the least. Farmington and Novi are a lot closer than Farmington and Bloomfield,
Yeah.
to say the least.
Yeah.
Long time at Novi then.
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah.
And you were varsity. Would you coach offense or defense?
Defense.
Okay.
Defense. Yeah, and I think a couple of years I did the JV, and then I'd go help the varsity, or it's just where how it is, wherever they need you.
The sport was changing in that 95 to that 2003 or 4 or 5 range.
Yeah.
By the time you were leaving Novi, then obviously the MHSA was stepping in and the MSLA was
Yes.
sort of winding down. And anything you remember about Novi that was particularly interesting?
There was we had some good teams. I think we had. It must have been all the way through '98. It was '98 because we had Josh Tankersley, who ended up being the player of the year. So and we had some really good games. We were out at the out at Cranbrook, out on the backfield, playing Country Day for in the state semifinal. So some of that was a lot of fun, but it was it's sometimes you just need to pick up and go, and I think that was a good time to.
All right, so then at some point you decided that Novi is no longer a possibility. You're coming to Catholic Central. Now, you went from Novi to Catholic Central?
Stan stepped down. He started having children, and
Family stuff.
Let's be home, and I did not have that yet, and so I interviewed. I never even got a return phone call.
From
Novi.
Novi.
Yeah, and which kind of was tough. And then I had to find out about it through whatever, and I'm like, okay, 8 years, 8 years, 0 years, whatever.
Not a phone call.
And I was actually, I didn't coach 1 year. And I was actually back here, and Mr. Santello, who's the AD at the time, said, why don't you go, go back, go to Sarles or go to one of the youth programs and just stay into it. I said, I think I just want to take a year off so I'm going to come back and hit it hard. And he said, or you could do that. So.
Where did the teaching come in? When did you start teaching? Were they the same thing?
At the same time, here almost at the same time. So, I coach. Kelly Kroll was hired here. He ran the varsity. He asked me to do the JV. I accepted. That was in 2005. That did not work out very well. Mr. Santello hired me to be the varsity coach in 2006, and then that's
And still at Redford.
hired. Our first year here.
So you're the first guy in this building as the coach.
Yes.
So the only guy in the building as a coach.
Yeah. Yes. Still
And
waiting for my office.
Still waiting for your office. You're still at this point now. You've also taken a teaching job, so it's kind of.
I started. I waited a long time to be here, because once all that started coming together, I was like, well, I'll just wait for CC to call me back.
Okay.
So I did a lot of things. I worked in the hotel industry. I did a lot of things I didn't want to do.
Why?
In order to wait.
Just 'cause.
This is where I wanted to be.
Okay.
This is where I wanted.
So now you're placed in the seat, one of the better jobs. At the time, was the Catholic Central job as coveted as it is, maybe not this past year, but it wasn't the job that it is now. Is that fair to say?
Well, I think so. I haven't thought about how how that would be since I'm in it.
Right.
Yeah, I would say, there were some dark years. There were definitely some dark years. So
in your mind, when you take over, what's your first thought? Just start to build it from scratch, knowing you sort of, when you're here, you said you wanted to be here, so obviously you're looking at long term.
Yeah.
So then what goes through your mind?
Well, there was some things that needed fixing. So I tried to get after that right away. I asked Stan, who I'd helped for so many years, if he would turn around and help me, and he said yes. So, he did a lot of offensive things, and he's a really great lacrosse mind, rides and clears and whatnot, and I focused more on the defensive end a little bit. But one thing I definitely noticed was that we weren't doing enough, like shooting drills, stick work, really intense skill work. So we got through that year. We had a really nice year the first year, and then the next year I said, well, there has to be more. You can't just spend 10 minutes shooting, So it started at 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it was like, and I'm going to all these clinics, I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm like, yeah, this is what people are doing. I mean, like, shooting drills are stick drills, especially if you incorporate, feeding and whatnot into it. So
When you first venture out as the head coach into other clinics and rest, it always dawned on me when I started to get out there. I knew a lot about box, knew nothing about field.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up as a box kid,
Oh,
but
okay.
I would listen to somebody tell me something, and oh my God, and in my own brain I'd know just how inadequate I was in comparison to a lot of other people.
Yeah.
And then I spent almost every summer doing as many clinics as I could find just to try to catch up to speed.
Sure.
Because you're competing against really good coaches.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And it's sometimes, you got to fake it till you make it.
Right.
Kind of an approach.
Yeah.
And I know that when I was at St. Mary's, we'd see you guys a lot in different places. I'd see you at Notre Dame, see you at Ohio State.
Yes.
And some of those kinds of things. And those are great places to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the more you go to those, the more at some point, the more you realize, okay, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And then you realize that it's like, okay, I didn't quite do that one, but I've been doing that drill for, quite a long time. And, oh, this is pretty cool. I do something like that, but we're just going to tweak it because I like this. So at some point it gets you a little more, almost validation, like, wow, if Nick Myers is doing this.
Right. Are you a coach who teaches or a teacher who coaches?
I'm probably a teacher who coaches.
Okay.
Yeah.
With all that world experience, like you said, you've had some various, you wanted to be in the FBI, you were in the hotel management business.
Yeah, yeah.
Does that help you be a better teacher and maybe even a better coach?
I don't know. I know last year,
More things to draw upon, more
yeah,
background.
I think it's just given me a variety of experiences to hopefully make me an accessible human being.
Wow. That's a really cool. I like that. I got to steal that. The accessible human being. I love that term. Out of every interview comes some nugget, and I just found mine with you. An excessive human being. That's
Yeah,
that's perfect.
But it wasn't always like that. I mean, I think when I first started, I would just go out of my way, and I was young, and maybe I'd be somebody's big brother figure or whatnot. Then as I got older, it's like you're not somebody's father, but you can be an influential figure, and that's never the goal. But it's just like
the gravy.
Well, you know how it is. You've been doing this a long time. You realize that there's a lot of people out there that no matter where they come from, people need an ear.
Well,
they need someone to say, "Hey, it's okay." They need someone to say, "You better get your ass in gear."
right. You don't fit. That's not. I don't know if we said that's right. You don't look like a typical successful lacrosse coach because a lot of them are very demonstrative.
Yeah.
And you're kind of shy and kind of reserved a little bit.
A little bit. I get a little demonstrative. You probably ask some of the officials. They'll probably get a little demonstrative.
I get that part, but even explaining, even earlier in this interview, trying to explain, this moment comes that we'd all dream for.
Yeah.
And it comes at all kind of, things that were terrific for the school.
Yeah.
And you still kind of downplay it a little bit, and I find it remarkable because but it's also your personality.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd plaster it up on the walls in places where you would see it because it's.
Well, I mean, we've got
No, I get it.
I know my oldest always says that. She's like, "You're always so calm," and I was like, "That's."
Haven't watched me in practice.
Yeah, I know she goes to games. She's like, "Oh, you've never yelled at home. What are you yelling at practice?"
Well, as you're building this program,
Yeah.
you obviously have this large albatross in orange and black.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
been around, and that's true of all of us chasing
Oh,
that
absolutely.
that dream. And
Yeah.
we all got close. I took them to overtime once when I was
Yeah.
at St. Mary's, and
Yep.
we've always had good games.
Yep.
But the reality to it was you're chasing it.
Yeah.
So I guess my question to you at this school, is that a part of the agenda maybe the last 6-7 years, or is it just another team you play and we just try to get better?
No, I mean it's and I had a conversation with Aaron Babbitt's our athletic director, and because it started. It's like you can't do this and you can't do that and blah 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 blah. So and I'd say, Aaron, I said it's not a Catholic Central problem. It's a state of Michigan problem. And he said, well, what do you mean? So I elaborated a little bit, and he said, I would agree with that. Not that he was giving me a hard time.
No, I get it.
And it was like, look, let's give credit where credit's due. You're
built an
looking at
unbelievable
damn
program.
near perfection, high school perfection. I mean,
Right.
there's, and you can, so I've done a number of things over the years, let's focus on this. And then I've had teams that, if it wasn't wearing orange, yeah, show up. Then it's like we're playing games against teams we are better than, but that's not coming out. The score, that's not how the end of the game is.
Right.
And it was like, I don't know if I want to do that. So there's been all sorts of strategies, and then it's like, you know what? Here's what I started doing a couple years ago. I don't care. And some of my friends that that are coaches that I've known a long time will attest to this. I don't care what anybody else is doing. I only care what Catholic Central High School is doing. Within that context, it's this campus, these people,
your kids,
my kids.
Yep.
And then if you want to get it down a little further, 110 by 60. That's it.
Was there a lot of pressure to beat them?
Oh yeah, there's always pressure here.
Was there an inordinate amount of pressure to beat them before you did beat them?
Not from anybody here.
Okay.
Not
So this
from
is a perceived value outside the building, as it always is.
Yes, there are always people who think they can do better.
Well, you hit on something, 3 years of winning and not losing is a streak. When you do it for 10 or 12 or 14 years, it's a dynasty.
Yeah.
There's a huge difference between those two.
Well, yes, and then some of the people throwing out some criticisms, it was just like, where I would like to see your body of work. It's
Right.
not, you're like, and then you're getting into things like, you don't even know what you're talking about. So it's just, these are unfounded opinions from
people who criticize a sport they barely know.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
Or
just-
or think they know.
They watch the tape, so they know.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, or whatever. So as that all went on, I knew, to go back to your earlier thing, that some of that this is coveted because I can do this, I can do that. What I told my my assistant Craig, who teaches here as well, who's been invaluable to all of us.
What's his last name?
McMichael.
Okay. Want to make sure we get the full name in.
Is when we started changing the culture a number of years back, and and then he had like his first Rice game on the varsity. So after that, he was like, I don't even think I could repeat. Like, holy crap, what was that? And I said, Craig, everybody wants a seat at the table until you sit down and find out what's for dinner. And a lot of times, whether it's Rob or Ajay, they're not serving you anything you want to eat.
Yeah.
And their kids are so, they're into it. They're confident. It's tough,
The second time we played Rob when I was at St. Mary's, I got a call on Sunday. We played him on a Sunday morning during an open house.
Yeah.
We had a 2009 team that went to the state championships.
Yep.
And Rob calls and says, I won't be at the game. Mm-hmm. And kind of insinuates that, well, it's Catholic Central. And I joked around I was the dumbest coach in the Catholic League at the time, which is probably accurate. But Rob says, I just don't need to be there. Mike Walker will be my assistant, and that's the rest of it.
Yeah.
So we take him to overtime. That evening when he's driving home, he calls some expletives from Rob. What the heck happened? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, we threw a defense at you that maybe you weren't used to seeing because dumb coaches sometimes come up with good ideas. He says, I'll definitely be at the next game. Well, we ended up playing them in the Catholic League finals someplace. I think it was at Notre Dame Prep or something. And I think we lost by 2 or 3. Mm-hmm. But we at least pointed out that, we scare them a little bit. And at least at one point in overtime, the ball hit the crossbar.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And you could just see your heart sink and eventually, but there was just that's just the way they were. That doesn't change it good or bad, it's just the way they operated.
Oh yeah, it's all the credit, it's never been by accident, I'll tell you that.
What do you like about coaching lacrosse at Catholic Central?
Well, I get to do both. I'm here in the classroom. I get to do what I like during the day, and then, more in the evening, I get to do the other aspect of, sort of finishing it off. It's like you can, if you guys want to go to college and do something, you have to do it well. If you want to get some money for it, you have to do things well, like your grades. It's just sort of, they complete each other. It's just sort of the perfect thing.
This past year, you obviously climbed the ladder and completed the task, and those accolades are still coming for a variety of awards. I'm looking at Coach of the Year and those kinds of things. So it's obviously had to be a rewarding.
They have to be here because my wife won't let me put them up at home.
Is the monkey now in your back again to repeat?
I don't think so.
Does it matter?
I don't think it matters. People, I get text messages. Oh, great. Now do it again. And I'm like, can I take the 5 minutes to enjoy what we just did?
Right.
You know, and so the do it again, you know, fine, you know, but that's, I can separate myself. I've already done so. I have to convince 28 teenagers or somewhere around there that, you know, your world is different. So we've already worked on, you know, some mottos and some things to sort of remind ourselves and make sure that we are, you know, we're not, at least from my perspective, I'm not content. I make no promises or guarantees except for the following. I am ready, and I am ready to do something new, and I am ready to be very aggressive.
Let me switch subject a little bit. 12 years you've been here. Talk a little bit about how players have changed. You notice, has the sport changed in your mind?
Yeah. Well, you know, obviously the sticks, and even from the more modern era, but if you look at the 2006 stick and the 2018-19, you know, I don't even have one. You know, we do a summer camp, and a couple of years ago, some little kid was like, "Can I have yours?" I just gave it to him. I haven't bought one since because I'm throwing, and I'm like, you know, it's a whip and the thing, and you know, I'm done.
Plus new sticks cost $250.
Well,
Right?
there's no, what am I gonna do? You're like,
Right.
This is how you do it, kid.
Right.
You know, you're going to Loyola.
Do you think kids have gotten better in the last 10 years?
Yeah, I think there's, I do, at least for here. I know, like, when I first started and you know, I got ambrosed a few times, you know, I actually ended up, I called him, and I found that he was pretty gracious for the most part.
Absolutely.
I think more than people, you know, imagine. So, and he said, "Dave, you have a ton of athletes," which we did. And he said, "You don't have any lacrosse players." And I was like, you know, in my mind, I'm going through, I got this kid, and he's judging. We're competitors.
Right.
He's judging our roster.
Right.
And a guy who's been overwhelmingly successful is saying, "You don't have the pieces." And
Does that come from travel then? Is that where those experiences come from?
I think, however you want to put it, but it's definitely been more exposure. Kids are getting, a ball is in a stick. More often than not, it looks like from the guys, you know, recently that the work has been good. I think you still run into some stuff with the, you know, the travel or the summer that you can definitely tell that, you know, rosters are being filled out, and, you know, everything's got the elite tag, you know, stuck with it. And
Yeah.
it's tough for tryouts because, you know, oh, he played for so-and-so
Right.
elite. And it's like,
There is some hype to the summer stuff.
I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. From that standpoint. But if your players get better, that's obviously the first thing that happens.
Yeah.
Your middle school or your feeder program seems like there's more Shamrock teams now too. It looks like you've got more bodies in that kind of a program as well.
Yeah, that is strictly under Rick Mulroney.
Right.
So
But do they feed to you?
those kids do come here. Yeah.
So it helps.
Yeah.
We built Oxford never had anything, and we put a middle school program in.
Yeah.
5 years out, we were all of a sudden
I know.
competitive.
We had no one to do it,
Right.
and it's tough because it's not. We're not in a school district.
Right.
And then, you know, for years people said, "Oh, you know, McNulty this, McNulty that, blah 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 blah," and then I'm like, I can't. I'm the high school coach. I can't like build this or do that.
Right.
So Rick said, you know, years ago, he said, "I'll do it," and I was like, "Do it. If you don't do it, nobody else will do it."
Is there anything in your mind from a high school perspective that could be better? Is there anything that you know, in your sleep you kind of go, you know, we could do better at this, that, or the other? Is there anything that might hit you?
High school lacrosse.
High school lacrosse. Is there?
Oh boy, nothing that sticks out. I'm sure there's always something that can be.
Sure.
improved
No,
upon,
I
but-
get that. Just if there's something that, from that standpoint.
Yeah.
What happens with Dave now? Are you gonna, how long, be nosy, you're in your late 40s?
Yeah. Yeah.
How long are you gonna coach? I guess that would depend on how long you're gonna teach, right?
Yeah,
You have kids at home?
yeah.
How many?
Yeah, there's one at home.
Okay.
Our oldest is married and has children.
Dave Wilson has a son or daughter that's married?
Yeah, yes.
Wow,
Yeah.
I didn't think you were that old, Dave. Like I said, just, you get,
Yeah.
I realized I started collecting on
got
Social Security this year, so I get that.
Married
part.
very young, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's
So
cool.
I think she was 21 or 22.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I thought, I have to tell you, in like the dark years from was it 2011, 12, 13, my wife's like, maybe you're ready to roll this up and put it away. And I kept saying, well, something's got to change, And because, we were getting beat up pretty good because, you lost to Northville High School, you lost to Novi,
Who had good teams.
Yeah, and it's like, I
They followed your model. They
Yeah.
followed Rice's model. They all got better.
right. So, but that's hard to.
Right. Extrapolate for
It's a
somebody who's
very,
watching it.
very competitive environment.
Right.
That's, sometimes people don't want to hear that.
Without changing subject, do you think there's more pressure to win here than in a public school? I know you may not have a comparison.
I can guess, but I can't. It'd be a total guess.
I've done both, and I don't think it's any different.
Okay.
I think if you're a winner, you make people angry because you win.
Yeah, yeah.
I think if you lose in either school, it doesn't matter because nobody pays attention.
Yeah.
I've heard that for years, and I've always said that
Yeah.
it's tough for the Catholic school. No, it's not.
I guess I do have a comparison. When I was at Novi, that's the expectation was now administration has changed. All these folks are gone, and they have been gone. The expectation was basically to participation.
Right. Bodies.
Play, keep them out of trouble. Couldn't care. He didn't care if we won, lost, split 7 different ways, whatever.
Well, the reason I'm asking the question is I keep hearing all these stories, and I guess to touch on it is, well, there's a different level of expectation at a Catholic school because, well, it's part of recruiting. If we're successful, we get more bodies. Kids who come to school here come for the education and come for a religious component.
Yeah.
If athletics is a part of that, I'm not saying it's not, because it is. But,
No, sure.
But not any different than it is in any other school. If
Yeah, yeah.
you go to a college because you want to be an engineer, you go to an engineering school.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's
yeah.
not.
Yeah, there's.
Sometimes I think that myth gets a little bit skewed.
That R word gets thrown around a lot, and I've had people say stuff to me. Oh, that's my nephew is getting a tennis scholarship. No, they're not. No, they're not. Well, yeah, they are. I talked to the coach. No, you didn't. There's nothing to give. There's like nothing to give. You know what I mean? You have to apply to like some financial aid thing through the business office and all that other stuff.
We had a kid as a freshman. His name was Tommy, and I can't remember his last name, who ended up going to Michigan to play. Nice big.
Yeah, or.
Tommy Orr.
Yeah.
Played for me as his freshman year.
Yeah, yeah.
Hated being at St. Mary's. Just hated it with a
Yeah,
passion.
yeah.
We were going to play Rockford first year, and DJ Lubbs, the current coach
Yeah.
at Michigan State, was
Yeah.
then a defenseman for Rockford. I told Tommy's dad I wasn't going to play him as a freshman because I felt like he was going to go in the game and get broken in half.
Sure.
Tommy was very frail. Now, it turned out to be he ended up growing to 6'3" and
Yeah, yeah.
210 and being an unbelievable player.
Yeah.
And I remember having a conversation with him. I said, I really, really would like to go back to Catholic Central
Yeah.
instead of St. Mary's. I said, why don't you?
Yeah.
He says, well, my parents would be mad. I said, if you asked them, no. He came back to here, had an unbelievable career with you guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think sometimes the self-imposed and all these ideas come from people not asking the question. And I think that's where a lot of stuff comes from.
It's, there's varying responses. There are a great number of students here who wanted to come here. I don't know if it's for, some guys go to Kairos, and they're on they go their second year, and
Right.
they're a leader, and they love that. And then some guys like being in the cheering section for a basketball game. They love it. You see them. There's genuine joy
Right.
with what they're doing. Chumming around with each other in the hallways, just whatever. Going up to Jimmy John's and having a sandwich. Just camaraderie. They love it.
Right.
And, I know I hear all the other stories. I get it. I understand. I've been around since I was 14.
Right.
So, but some kids do come for a religious aspect. Some kids come for band. Our band is fantastic.
Right.
Some kids are coming for robotics. The robotics team is turning into something. Some kids come here for the Quiz Bowl. They're national contenders every year. So,
Sometimes we get lost in the process. There are high schools.
yeah.
They have bands that travel farther than any athletic team has ever
Oh
traveled.
my God, yeah.
And they
Yeah.
deserve the work. They do all the work. They get in that process. And and,
Absolutely.
from that
Yeah.
perspective. So
Yeah.
it's just one of those things.
So it's, that's who if you're coming here, you come here to enjoy the experience. I haven't had anybody tell me in quite a long time that, oh yeah, I'm going to send them there to play lacrosse, and I go, oh God, why?
Well, as I pointed out earlier, when I went to St. Mary's, I always used to say if you're coming to St. Mary's to play lacrosse with me, the dumbest coach in the league, then you're really picking it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
You should pick it because it's got a great education.
Exactly,
Like
yeah.
any other school.
Yeah.
I've told that story for a number of years.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing this year, and this is kind of how it fits, is that there's this mountain and you finally scaled it, and I think it finally gave hope for other programs,
Yeah,
other
yeah.
teams, and I think it opens
Yeah.
up the well a
No
little
hope,
bit.
no hope. It's all sealed up.
Right. Well, I think it opens up the stream long enough to
Yeah,
suggest that there's opportunities,
Absolutely.
and you don't have to be the greatest thing since sliced bread to be able to do it if you put the work in. And I think that, from a growth standpoint for our high school season and our high school, process,
Sure.
is huge. Not here, and probably not in the halls of Brother Rice, but it's certainly true at Forest Hill Central and Traverse City,
Oh yeah.
and
yeah.
Petoskey
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Skyline and any other place.
Heartland High School.
Yeah.
Made a
Perfect example.
phenomenal team 2 years in a row.
Yep.
I'm not going to sit there and pat them on the butt because we had. I
Right.
mean, we're
Lost to beat them by a goal.
we're at.
They have good players.
We're in an athletic war.
Yep.
So, that I mean,
It's great for everything. Pulls everybody up.
Anybody that knows sports and watches those games knows that wow. One little thing here or there. And that's how it goes. I've had, how many times, I've worn the bridesmaid's dress or been in a 1-goal game, or what, a lot. It's not the end of the world.
No. Having been up in a state final like 11-2 or 9-2 or 10-2 or something and losing it into overtime,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
being told how stupid you are once, and in your case it's happened.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I multiply that.
Boy, if you're the dumbest guy in the league,
Right. and that's but people that don't know.
Yeah.
It's just that's the process.
yeah.
It's interesting, Dave, because we've known each other for a long time, but I don't know that we ever knew each other because we've never spent time talking. And
Yeah.
the blood seems to boil quietly under the surface. At least that would be if I was explaining something to somebody. But is there something we don't know about you that would be interesting? Is there something, without trying to reveal, all your dark secrets, but is there something that we might not know about Dave Wilson that would be interesting? That's a hard question.
Yeah, there's probably a few things, but
Let me ask this one.
There's nothing really overwhelming.
Are you more competitive than you let on?
Oh, hell yes.
Okay. See, I think as you started this interview, it was the demure guy, and I think if you listen to you talk for a while, it does matter. Not that it shouldn't. It does.
Sure.
But I think the blood boils very calmly under the skin, which I think is kind of cool. Because it's not. Most of us are just out there.
Well, there's. I'm at a place where I deeply enjoy.
Right.
And care very much about.
And you
So-
have kids you like.
Yes, and so I think that gives me the opportunity. I can at least be passionate about that in a positive in a good context, positive, negative, whatever, but in a context that which is comfortable for me. I don't like being overly demonstrative. It's not something I particularly enjoy. I know from, watching athletics over a lifetime, you see stuff and you're like, well, that's weird. Or, wow, look at that guy go.
Well, Mom always used to tell us, be careful of the quiet guys, because they're the ones that are most competitive, and I guess that's maybe what I learned from this lesson with you.
Yeah.
It's a lot more competitive juices than maybe.
Well, that's, my dad was very quiet too. I mean, when he was alive, he'd go to games and then we'd meet up and eat afterwards, and he'd say, would you stop throwing your hat? And I said, I will try to do that. And I'm sorry, Dad, it's been 10 years, I haven't stopped doing it.
My father used to say, and I still use the statement, don't make the routine look spectacular.
Yeah.
Just do your job, shut the heck up, and keep moving.
Yeah.
And I think it is. All right. Well, listen, I appreciate the time you spent with us.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for doing all
we've
this.
got
These are a lot of fun.
A better insight to Dave Wilson than we ever had before, and I think you've given us some hints as to just kind of how this works, and thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.